Psst, do you hear me? Psst, hello? Oh, cool. I am a sleepy Mo. I haven't slept since I woke up. I haven't slept. Hello. I hope you guys are doing well. I am so tired, but I can't fall asleep. I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep. Here, this is good enough since I just want company. I haven't slept since, like, ever. This is more so I can sleep, though. I'll give it some time. Am I too loud or am I just fine? 3 days of no sleep would make me die. Is this too loud? I'm a bit quiet? Really? Here, let me check if I can... I'm surprised I'm quiet. I'm so very tired. Let's see if I can make myself louder. Is the music too loud? I'm very tired. I've had 2 hours of sleep. The wind kept me up. Yeah, my hair likes murder. Shrimp, thank you so much. Didn't you just subscribe the other day? I could have sworn. I know I saw you. Welcome aboard. Thank you for being here. I hope you can help me sleep. Do you want me to increase my volume then? It's 8 p.m., but I haven't slept at all. I've had 2 hours of sleep. Do I need to increase my volume? The music's fine? Okay, that's cool. I would love some sleep, but it eludes me. So, is my mic too... It sounds fine? Oh, that's cool. I'm fine? Okay. Alright, Roku. Increase your ears or something. How is everyone? We have some things we can do today. We can just listen to the same damn song until I pass out. Or we can listen... I have some audiobooks actually. There's an audiobook site I used to listen to, and they have Public Domain Audiobooks. You're saying comfy? That's good. I hope you feel comfy. Ah, so sleepy, so sleepy, so sleepy. Oh god, my hair. Stop stabbing me, not in front of Twitch. That's lewd. Golly, I should just cut them off. You might sleep soon? Golly, what time is it there? I'm very tired. I've tried to sleep so much today. I've stayed in bed for hours and it just wouldn't come. Thank you, Possession. You're lurking right now? Oh, you're on the train, choo-choo. Is it the Moe train? You're comfy? We're probably gonna get another body pillow, because I'm getting a redesign at some point. You can't sleep? Why can't you sleep? It's 8:40 for you? Oh hey, we're in the same time zone, that's cool. Thank you for the tentacle spirit. Ah. You know, I thought I was supposed to stream earlier, but then I asked my friend like, hey, am I supposed to stream today? And then they're like, it's not in your schedule. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank fucking God. It wasn't scheduled? I could have sworn it was scheduled. I guess I lied to myself. I apologize. I do that a lot. Sometimes I lie and I'm like, Moe, you did a good job today. But in reality, Moe, you're a piece of shit. I'm kidding. I'm very tired, yes. Am I getting, I don't know, all my days blur together. Thank you, sorters. When I sleep, you sleep. Well, I'm kind of hoping that I get so tired that I'll just pass out after this. Because I woke up I fell asleep at 4. Something woke me up at 6. And then it took me 4 or 5 hours and I just would not fall asleep. I am American, yeah. I used to live in some part of Asia though. Oh my gosh, my hair. Stop stabbing me. If you're gonna stab me, stab my eyes so I can sleep though. How is everyone? Did you get sleep? Well, I wanted to sleep, but you see, I was trying to get Venti the other day. Venti wouldn't come home. Venti never came home. Instead, the game threw me a bunch of weapons. They gave me 2 Noels, a fucking sucrose, and some cat girl I didn't want. And then after that, Venti still wouldn't come home. But that time I didn't get jack shit. And then the wind was actually really scary. I don't like loud noises. The wind and really hard rain tend to scare me, because I'm not good with loud sounds. If it makes you feel better, I haven't spent money though. You took sleeping pills? I usually use a sleeping mask. And they usually work, but they don't work. They just don't want to work. You need sleep? You should sleep. You should go sleep if you can. I tried to sleep. I would love some sleep. Do I sleep to sounds? I sleep to audiobooks. I need the sound of some boring narrator. Hi everyone. I don't know, white noise doesn't help me sleep. White noise would probably piss me off. I don't know how people could fall asleep with it. White noise is like just my general surroundings. You got Hu Tao? Oh, that's good, that's good. I got a lot of characters, it's just I don't care for them. I just want Venti. No, I don't wanna be by the Declaration of Independence, Roku. I don't wanna be independent. I wanna be dependent. I would love to depend on someone for head pats, food, tummy rubs, take me out on walks. It's okay, I won't make you pick up my stuff. The sound of rain or the clanks of a cafe? No, I'd probably get pissed off at people coming to a cafe at like 3 AM in the morning. Rain is okay. No, I usually just do audiobooks, but then there's an issue if the audiobook is good. then the audiobook is good and you stay up for another 2 hours and then you want to download another audiobook and then you're like, oh my golly, this is such a good detective novel. I just love murder. Oh boy, 3 a.m. Yeah. Hi, Nemesis. I'm here to help you guys sleep, but in reality, you're gonna make me sleep. I'd have to live in a semi-truck? I don't want to live in a semi-truck. What do I do in a semi-truck? Does your semi-truck have, like, you know when you go to a beach and you got that thing that carry the sand? That's pretty cool. I'm an angel that hasn't fallen asleep in a day. Oh man, I love murder. I love consensual murder. Thank you, Oxy. I look like a princess? A princess with hair that keeps stabbing her in the fucking eye. Oh my golly. How do I fix my hair? I really should have fixed the collision. Actually, this is an old model, to be fair. Hi, Mark. This is an old model. I'm always an angel to you? Thank you. Do you remember that one time you end up calling me babe? That was embarrassing, wasn't it? Yeah, those were the days. Yeah. Okay, to be fair, Tamaya, you expose yourself on Twitter, so thank you, Death Metal. He meant to send it to someone else. Man, imagine if you had someone like a role model or someone you just like get inspired by, and then you ended up calling them Toots or Babe or Big Tits or Sweet Tits McGee. Would you be embarrassed? That'd be kind of embarrassing. But you didn't call me that. Babe's not too bad. It's embarrassing, but it's not horrible. Yeah, like, you would be embarrassed, Roku? Well, you're not the type of guy to say sweet tits or anything. Nor sweaty tits. Sweaty tits kinda gross. Thank you for the headpad stud. And everyone. Actually, when I was younger, I would call someone, like, with big ol' badonkadonks, like, Titty McGee. They were guys, by the way. You wouldn't say that to anyone? Yeah. Sweet Tits McGee, yeah. Not to be confused with American McGee. The guy who made the Alice game, I forgot. It is American McGee, right? Is it American McGee? Can you confirm it for me? What did I do? I've done a lot of weird shit growing up, okay? Is it toxic? The titty stuff? Hi, Bullet. Oh, hey, hi, Goat. We looked at you the other day. It was like goat food, and it made us feel bad because you're also goat. Or you're all weird in your own way, yeah. Really? I always like calling people names. Like, bitch, or yo, asshole. I'm kidding. I like dear, dearest, honey. I like old-timer names. I like boomer names. You saw? Oh, okay. I'm sorry about your cousin. Sup, fuckers? Yeah. Oh, Darlin's a nice name. Although I prefer it with a G. Darlin. G. Yo, what's up, my darling? Wasn't it like G-Dog or something? Is it cursed ASMR? This is not that cursed. We talked about cannibalism. We looked at bugs the other day. Thank you, Sorters. I'm 3. Yeah, I lost count of my age. I think Redacted's almost 4, so technically. But then most technically just 3. Redacted's almost 4? No, that's impossible. Actually, no, I guess it makes sense. Fuck. Hi, Yanni. Yanni, you're actually awake. Oh my god. Oh yeah, we saw like a banana hot dog. Aren't I 7? I'm trying to base it off by how many years I've actually done YouTube stuff. And the reality was like I technically had 3 years on Redacted and then 3 years on Mo, but I started. Oh yeah, Redacted died for a year. That's what happened. Cool. The G makes a big difference. Darlin G sounds kind of like a type of tea. I'll let people come in and then we'll just talk a bit. Oh, but if you guys want to get started on the audiobooks, let me know. We have LibriVox today. I used to listen to them when I was in high school, actually. Sorry, I mean preschool, because I'm obviously like 3 or 4. I have a story for ghost stories. Unless you want a different genre. Actually, I think Instinct hates ghost stuff. You were late to the party? I don't think you're that late. Would I peel a hot dog like a banana? Don't you just blend it? What's this? It's LibriVox. Here you go. Let's see. LibriVox.org. Here you go. Basically, all the stuff here are public domain stories, along with public domain recordings, which is pretty sweet of them, actually. They say that this means anyone can use all the recordings however they wish, even to sell them, although that seems kinda mean. All your recordings on LibriVox will be donated to the public domain, which is really cool. That's really nice of them. So, if you guys are having trouble sleeping, we can listen to them. Let me go find a genre. Let's find something not ghost stories. Yeah, public domain is wonderful. I would marry public domain. Hi, Tumor. I'm so tired. I have not been able to sleep at all. Have I narrated any novels? I did visual novel readings in my old channel, but not on Mo. I thought about it, but they actually hurt. You see, when you're talking, controlling your voice and reading the words so as to not fuck up is pretty hard on the voice. Hi, pleb. My yaoi collection? No, you gotta experience that on your own. You never know when there's a dick up your ass in it. Sci-fi is pretty chill. I have children's fantasy. Myths, legends, and fairy tales. Let's see. Oh god, there's stuff in like... I don't even know what this is. German? That's cool. Oh yeah, these are in German. Let's stick with English now. Come on, I don't know my German. My germs of the men. Let's see. If only... Oh hey, there's Pinocchio. Oh my god, Pinocchio was a piece of shit. Oh, I don't want to stream tomorrow. I'm only streaming because I need help. I would love to talk to people if I can't sleep in the meantime. German Duolingo stream? No, only Japanese. Alice in Wonderland? Oh shit, that sucked too. Not gonna lie. Bum 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 bum. And this kind of reminds me of like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in a sense. I gotta do a backflip? I would, but my panties will probably be showing, so no. Anyway, but boy Tamaya, welcome back for session. We're just talking out of our asses still. There's like too many German stuff here. I don't think there's enough English stuff. There's religious books. You wanna hear about the 2 books of A Sad But True Story? What the fuck? How's this religious? I guess this is themed for religion. That's cool. Children's fiction. A Christmas of Long Ago. Santa Claus. A Plum Pudding. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Isn't there some racist stuff in there? Oh shit, we don't want that. I don't want them saying any bad words. Or was that Tom Sawyer? No, you guys only get 1 year action today. Don't read that? Okay, cool. I will make sure not to read it. You know, Aesop's thing would never go wrong. Dramatic readings. How about like family friendly? You guys don't have any. Okay. Well, if we're doing this based on safety, let's go look at gothic fiction. Oh, this is a nice song. The Dunwich Horror. Actually, Lovecraft tends to have bad words in it, to be honest. Let me go look at a Dunwich Horror PDF first. Hi, Austin. Dunwich Horror PDF. Maybe they say like fuck, no bad words. Okay, shit. Lovecraft. I know in one story you named a cat a certain name. I need to make sure this story has nothing of that sort. Although to be fair, they actually used that word in LA Noire. It is contextual. As long as you know that we do not condone it. Is that the term? We don't allow it. There you go. That was his actual cat's name? Yeah. No. The cat, they named it after a bad word. And then in like future stuff, they changed the name? I could skip those words? Well, I mean, LA Noire, we didn't expect that. Anyway, do you guys need ominous music? Let me go look for horror music. We're gonna listen to the Dunwich Horror. The Dunwich, or more like the Dun Bitch. Haha. Oh my golly, it is. It's like an hour. It's almost like 2 hours actually. Hi Miko. Are you ready for the Dunwich Horror? Whoa, that doesn't sound very horrific actually. Does this sound horrific? I guess so. Okay, you guys might have to tell me if this is too loud.
Part 1 of The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft.
Is it too soft?
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recording public domain. For more information or to volunteer,
turn up the audiobook.
LibriVox.org.
Is this better?
Reading by Mark Nelson.
Hold up, Mike. We're gonna
Part
keep
1
doing it.
of The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft.
Is this better? There's
This is
delay.
a LibriVox
This is better.
recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public
I
domain.
can't help it. His mic
For more
quality's probably
information or
shit,
to
not gonna
volunteer,
lie.
Visit LibriVox.org.
Yeah, his mic quality is shit.
Reading by Mark Nelson. The Dunwich Horror.
By
Part 1.
H.P. Lovecraft. Heck, you know, I could probably just read this to you guys.
Chimeras, dire stories of Salino and the Harpies may reproduce themselves in the brain of superstition, but they
Yeah,
were there
you know what?
before.
Mike,
They
Mike,
are
you're
transcripts.
fired, Mike. You're fired. My voice suits this better. Yeah, fuck you, Mike. Sorry, Mike. You did a really terrific job, though, because that's like an hour long, and this is probably gonna kill my voice. Could be highly compressed. Well, these are public domain stuff. I don't exactly expect the people to have amazing mic quality. I don't think they're streamers. Okay. Let me go back to my previous setting. Okay. When a traveler in north central Massachusetts takes the wrong fork at the junction of the Aylesbury Pike, just beyond Dean's Corners, he comes upon a lonely and curious country. The ground gets higher, and the briar-bordered stone walls press closer and closer against the ruts of the dusty, curving road. The trees of the frequent forest belt seem too large, and the wild weeds, brambles, and grasses attain a luxuriance not often found in settled regions. At the same time, the planted fields appear singularly few and barren, while the sparsely scattered houses wear a surprisingly uniform aspect of what the fuck music? Why do I have this in my horror playlist? It's called Candy and Mandy. This shouldn't go to a different playlist. Go to like, I don't know, vaudeville or something. Candy and Mandy, get out. Okay, that's cool. Without knowing why, one hesitates to ask directions from the gnarled, solitary figures spied now, and then on crumbling doorsteps or on the sloping, rock-strewn meadows. Those figures are so silent and furtive that one feels somehow confronted by forbidden things, with which it would be better to have nothing to do. When a rise in the road brings the mountains in view of the deep woods, the feeling of strange uneasiness is increased. The summits are too rounded and symmetrical to give a sense of comfort and naturalness, and sometimes the sky silhouettes with especial clearness, the queer circles of tall stone pillars would... You know what, Mike? I think you're hired again, Mike. First off, when reading that, I don't even know what the fuck happened. I think it's just saying this place looks like shit. Secondly, I am out of breath just reading that. This is the ASMR microphone. Oh, that's what I use for ASMR. It's my Yeti. Okay, Mike, come back. I'm sorry, baby. Sorry, babe. You're hired again, Mike. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Types. The archetypes are in us and eternal. How else should the recital of that which we know in a waking sense to be false come to affect us at all? Is it that we naturally conceive terror from such objects, considered
Jesus Christ, Mike does like a terrific job reading this too. Injury? What the fuck, Mike?
Oh, least of all.
You make me jealous.
These terrors are of older standing. They date beyond body. Or without the body, they would have been the same. That the kind of fear here treated is purely spiritual. That it is strong in proportion as it is objectless on earth. That it predominates in the period of our sinless infancy.
Goldie, thank you so much for the biddies. As you can tell, I'm fucked up in the head right now.
Into our anti-mundane
I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Into the shadowland of pre-existence.
Thank you, Go.
Charles Lamb. Witches and other night fears.
What the fuck? That wasn't even part of the thing. What the fuck, Mike? Why are you reading that, Mike?
When a traveler in north-central Massachusetts takes the wrong fork at the junction of the Aylesbury Pike just beyond Dean's Corners, he comes upon a lonely and curious country. The ground gets higher, and the briar-bordered stone walls press closer and closer against the ruts of the dusty, curving road. The trees of the frequent forest belt seem too large, and the wild weeds, brambles, and grasses attain a luxuriance not often found in
reading that
settled
was
regions.
like exercise for me.
At the same time, the planted fields appear singularly few and barren, while the sparsely scattered houses wear a surprising uniform aspect of age, squalor, and dilapidation. Without knowing why, one hesitates to ask directions from the gnarled, solitary figures spied now and then on crumbling doorsteps or in the sloping, rock-strewn meadows.
This is actually what I listen to when I sleep.
Those figures are so silent and furtive that one feels somehow confronted by forbidden things.
Let me know if you want to share the fucky wookie. Thank you for the fucky wookie.
When a rise in the road brings the mountains in view,
let me know if you
want to
just like talk instead of listen to audiobooks.
Is increased. The summits are too rounded and symmetrical to give a sense of comfort and naturalness. And
or we can pause and talk about the story.
The sky silhouettes with especial clearness the queer circles of tall stone pillars with which most of them are crowned. Gorges and ravines of problematical depth intersect the way, and the crude wooden bridges always seem of dubious safety. When the road dips again, there are stretches of marshland that one instinctively dislikes, and indeed almost fears at evening when unseen whippoorwills chatter and the fireflies
I tried reading it. I ran out of breath. I will die.
Dance to the raucous, creepily insistent rhythms of stridently piping bullfrogs.
What the fuck? Hold up, I lost them. There's bullfrogs in here? There's bullfrogs? We'll just talk about... What the fuck? Okay, I clearly zoned out. Not gonna lie, Lovecraft is great, but they're really good at putting you to sleep. Thank you, Mario. I would love some sleep. Lovecraft uses a lot of big words. Look at this. How many people use luxuriance, dilapidation, squalor, gnarled, solitary figures, crumbling doorsteps? Okay, that's fine. He kind of drools on forever. So basically, they're setting up the scene in Massachusetts, and everything is fucking creepy. And there's ravines and wooden bridges and frogs. Miskatonic? Oh fuck! What does miskatonic mean? Does anyone remember what miskatonic means? Okay, Mike, do your thing.
The thin, shining line of the Miskatonic's upper reaches has an oddly serpent-like suggestion as it winds close to the feet of the domed hills among which it rises. As the hills draw nearer, one heeds their wooded sides more than their stone-crowned tops. Those sides loom up so darkly and precipitously.
You understand shit? I don't blame you, actually. Do you guys want to do an easier story? Wait, it's a word they made up? I thought it was a real word. Actually, that makes sense. Miskatonic is... I always thought it meant like macabre. Here, we can find an easier novel if you guys want. Let's go find something easier. Sorry, Mike. Looks like you're fired again. You guys wanna do? Do you wanna do little bedtime stories? You wanna do children's food? Let's see. Oh hey, there's a bridegroom from Nismo, Korean. A son of a knack. He got fired twice now. Look, it's a tough economy. I'm sorry. Aesop's Children. Alice in Wonderland. Look, Alice in Wonderland pisses me off. It's fine. It's just like, I don't care after the first read. Sorry, Mike. You'll get your... Well, you did this as a volunteer, actually. Sorry, Mike. You don't get jack shit. But you'll forever be remembered by us. There's a cautionary tale for children. Canadian fairy tales. Oi! Oh no, you guys go A. A book of fairy tale bears, foxes, the book of dragons, book of elves. I kind of like the idea of a cautionary thing. Hi, Atma. The Crimson Fairy Book, The Cowardly Lion of Oz. The Christmas Tales of Flanders, the Children's Wonder Book. Christ Legends. It's like Raid Shadow Legends, but with Christ. And then, like, everything else is German, and I don't understand shit. Did anything pick your fancy? Ned Flanders? Isn't that from Simpson or something? Let's see. Well, we should probably warn you guys of shit not to do. As you can tell, I did not plan this stream, but to be fair, I'm fucking tired. Let's see. Oh, this is pretty. Cautionary children's tales. The Adventure of a Kite. Alright. We're gonna focus completely on the audiobook this time. You'll have to let... Ooh, The Boy of the Red Twilight Sky. That sounds like it's a horror thing.
The Boy of the Red Twilight Sky by Cyrus McMillan.
Alright, Cyrus, you're hired.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Thank you for telling them.
For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
When are you guys gonna volunteer, huh? Wait, Mike?
The Boy of the Red Twilight Sky by Robert McMillan.
Was his name... Oh. Wait, was his name Mike? What? Mike?
Long ago...
Hold up, no. Is this Mike again?
The Boy of the Red Twilight Sky by Cyrus McMillan. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Mike?
For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Matt Perard.
Okay, you sound like it's Pat. Sorry. Sorry, Pat.
Robert McMillan.
Sorry.
Long ago, there dwelt on the shores of the great water, in the west, a young man and his younger wife. They had no children, and they lived all by themselves far from other people on an island, not far from the coast. The man spent his time in catching the deep-sea fish far out on the ocean, or in spearing salmon in the distant rivers.
I think he
Often,
sounds fine so
he was
far.
gone for many days, and his wife was very lonely in his absence.
And his wife's gonna cheat on him. He never comes home. He's gonna go for cigarettes, and he's gonna fuck that salmon he just caught.
She was not afraid, for she had a stout spirit, but it was very dismal in the evenings to look only at the gray leaden sky, and to hear only the sound of the surf as it beat upon the beach. So, day after day, she said to herself, "I wish we had children. They would be
Oh.
good company for me when I am alone and my husband is far away." One evening, at twilight, when she was solitary because of her husband's absence on the ocean catching the deep sea fish, she sat on the sand beach looking out across the water. The sky in the west was pale gray. It was always dull and gray in that country, and when the sun had gone down there was no soft light. In her loneliness the woman said to herself, "I wish we had children to keep me company."
Oh my god, this is actually kind of sad. I feel kind of bad for her. But why is... Don't they just need a fuck, though?
A kingfisher, with his children, was diving for minnows not far away, and the woman said,
Maybe
"Oh,
his pee-pee
seabird
small.
with the white collar, I wish we had children like you."
Oh.
And the kingfisher...
Imagine if you just went to your neighbor and they had children and you're like, oh man, I wish I had children like you. And you don't know them. You don't know them at all. They're just like a stranger. Maybe you're like an acquaintance. Like, I wish I had children like you. How would you feel if I did that with you guys? Do you guys want to do that? Like, you know, next time you see your neighbor, you're just gonna go, I wish I had children like you, and glare at them.
Fisher said, "Look in the seashells, look in the seashells," and flew away. The next evening the woman sat again upon the beach, looking westward at the dull gray sky. Not far away a white seagull was riding on the waves in the midst of her brood of little ones. And the woman said, "Oh, white seabird, I wish we had children like you to keep..."
Okay, the woman's losing it, guys. She's talking to a fucking seagull. She's talking to a seagull. She's fucking losing it. She talks to a fish. She talks to a seagull. Oh shit.
us company. And the seagull said, "Look in the seashells, look in the seashells," and flew away. The woman wondered greatly at the words of the kingfisher and the seagull. As she sat there in thought, she heard a strange cry coming from the sand dunes behind her. She went closer to the sound and found that the cry came from a large seashell.
Yeah, Azabel, she needs friends. She needs some friends or hobbies.
Lying on the sand. She picked up the shell, and inside of it was a tiny boy, crying as hard as he could.
Hi, Dippity.
She was well pleased with her discovery, and she...
Okay, first off, like, if you found a kid at a seashell, you would probably be freaked out. You would not be pleased with the discovery. You'd be like, who the fuck left their kid in a seashell, guys?
She carried the baby to her home and cared for him. When her husband came home from the sea,
Whose fucking child is that? Who did you fuck while I was gone? I was fishing, trying to provide for us. Whose kid is this?
too, was very happy to find the baby there, for he knew that they would be lonely no more.
Oh, he doesn't even question it, guys. How small was this baby? I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. There's been stories of like little tiny children, but no one ever steps on them.
The baby grew very rapidly, and soon he was able to walk and move about where he pleased.
That ain't normal.
One day, the woman was wearing a copper bracelet on her arm, and the child said to her, "I must have a bow made from the copper on your arm." So, to please him, she made him a tiny bow from the bracelet and 2 tiny arrows.
That's fucking abnormal. Would you guys give a toddler that? If you have like a 4-year-old child and they just went, I demand the bows made from your bones, would you provide it?
At once he set out to hunt game, and
What
day
the fuck?
after day he came home bearing the products of his chase.
How old is this
He brought
child?
home geese and ducks and brant and small seabirds, and gave them to his mother for food. As he grew older, the man and his wife noticed that his face took on a golden hue brighter than the color of his copper bow. Wherever he went, there was a strange light. When he sat on the beach,
This kid
looking
is
to the west,
Jesus.
the weather was always calm, and there were strange bright gleams upon the water. And his foster parents wondered greatly at this unusual power. But the boy would not talk about it. When they spoke of it, he was always silent. It happened once that the winds blew hard over the great water, and the man could not go out to catch fish because of the turbulent sea. For many days he stayed on shore, for the ocean, which was usually at peace, was lashed into a great fury, and the waves were dashing high on the beach.
Don't these guys have supermarkets or some shit? Are they like the only humans on Earth? I've not heard of any other humans in the story. Like, there's no supermarket, there's no neighbors, there's no friends. Just a talking magical baby who can speak full sentences at like the age of 2 or something. How old is this? Oh, I don't know. It's just public domain, so it's probably more than 72 years.
Soon the people were in need of fish for food, and the boy said,
Wait, you guys have a forest near you. The boy has clearly been proven that he can hunt. Why rely on fish when it's a fucking thunderstorm or hurricane there when you have a forest near you?
I will go out with you, for I can overcome the storm spirit. The man did not want to go, but at last he listened to the boy's entreaties, and together they set out for the fishing grounds, far across the tossing sea. They had not gone far when they met the spirit of the storm coming madly from the southwest, where the great winds dwelt. He tried hard to upset their boat, but over them he had no power, for the boy guided the frail craft across the water, and all around them the sea was calm and still. Then the storm spirit called his nephew, Black Cloud, to help him, and away in the southeast they saw him hurrying to his uncle's aid. But the boy said to the man, "Be not afraid, for I am more than a match for him." So the two met, but when Black Cloud saw the boy, he quickly disappeared.
What the fuck? This kid is like Super Saiyan. He's OP already.
Then the spirit of the storm called Mist of the Sea to come and cover the water, for he thought the boat would be lost if he hid the land from the man and the boy. When the man saw Mist of the Sea coming like a gray vapor across the water, he was very frightened, for of all his enemies on the ocean he feared this one most.
What's he
But the
fearing?
boy said, "He cannot harm you when I am with you." And sure enough, when Mist of the Sea saw the boy sitting smiling in the boat, he disappeared as quickly as he had come.
What the fuck? What if this kid is actually like a bully in a past life? He's OP, yeah, please nerf. You need like another update or something. Also, thank you, Hentai. The
And
boy is
storm
Broly.
spirit in
Or
great
Brawly, yeah.
anger hurried away to other parts, and that day there was no more danger on the sea near the fishing grounds.
I just want to know how the story ends.
The
Does
boy
he
and the
die?
man
He probably
soon
leaves the
reached the
parents.
fishing grounds in safety, and the boy taught his foster father a magic song with which he was able to lure fish to his nets. Before evening came, the boat was filled with good fat fish, and they set out for their home. The man said, "Tell me the secret of your power." But the boy said, "It is not yet time." The next day, the boy killed many birds.
Oh god, I thought it was just gonna be like the boy killed many. I was like, what the fuck? Hi, Wizard, welcome to the stream. We're just listening to audiobooks.
He skinned them all and dried their skins. Then he dressed himself in the skin of a plover, and rose into the air and flew above the sea. And the sea under him was gray like his wings. Then he came down and dressed himself in the skin of a blue jay and soared away again.
Man, I feel fucking awful for these birds. They just show up, they want to eat their seeds, and then this random ass kid beats the fuck out of them and then wears their skin.
and the sea over which he was flying was at once changed to blue, like
Wait,
the
he
blue of his
flies?
wings. When he came back to the beach, he put on the skin of a robin with a
What the
breast of a golden hue like his face. Then he flew high, and at once the waves under him reflected a color as of fire,
He's a
and bright
psychopath.
gleams of light appeared upon the ocean, and the sky in the west was golden red. The boy flew back to the beach, and he said to his foster parents,
I'm leaving your
"Now
ass.
it is time for me to leave you."
What the fuck? What the fuck? What was the purpose? They wanted a kid, and now this kid's gonna leave them? What the hell? Does he at least like leave another kid? That defeats the purpose of the whole story. I guess it makes sense. It's kind of like, I want a kid, they get the kid, and then you kids ditch the parents. But like, it's been like how long? How long has it been?
I am the offspring of the sun. Yesterday my power was tested, and it was not found wanting. So now I must go away, and I shall see you no more. But at evening I shall appear to you often in the twilight sky in the west.
At least visit, you son of a bitch. They raised you, they fed you, and they didn't have to adopt your baby ass.
And when the sky and the sea look at evening like the color of my face,
Ticky, thank you for the raid. Thank you so much. We were just dissecting an audiobook of this psychopathic kid who gets adopted from a seashell, and then he goes like, "All right, see ya, mom and dad." Thank you for the raid.
Wind nor storm, and that on the morrow the weather will be fair. But although I go away, I shall leave you a strange power.
I'll leave you the power of death.
And always when you need me, let me know your desires by making white offerings to me. So
What the fuck? They still have to offer to your ass? Can't they just ask? What the hell? What a psychopathic greedy motherfucker.
I may see them from my home, far in the west. Then he gave his foster mother a wonderful robe. He bade his parents goodbye and soared away to the west, leaving them in sadness. But the woman still keeps a part of the power he gave her, and when she sits on the island in a crevice in the dunes and loosens her wonderful robe, the wind hurries down from the land, and the sea is ruffled with storm. And the more she loosens the garment, the greater is the tempest. But in the late autumn, when the cold mists come in from the sea, and the evenings are chill, and the sky is dull and gray, she remembers the promise of the boy, and she makes to him an offering of tiny white feathers plucked from the breasts of birds. She throws them into the air, and they appear as flakes of snow and rise thickly into the winds. And they hurry westward to tell the boy that the world is gray and dreary as it yearns for the sight of his golden face. Then he appears to the people of earth. He comes at evening and lingers after the sun has gone, until the twilight sky is red, and the ocean in the west has gleams of golden light. And the people then know that there will be no wind, and that on the morrow the weather will be fair, as he promised them long ago.
That's
End
cool.
of The Boy of the Red Twilight Sky by
I feel kind of really bad for the parents. What would you do if you have a child and then, like, I don't know, at the age of 2 or 3, they never said how old he is or how many years pass, but he just goes like, all right, I'm actually like the offspring of a god, I'm gonna go fly now, and he just like flies into the sunset. Good night, Azabel, thanks for dropping by. You can get some snacks if you want. I'm hungry too, but none of the food here tastes good. The only thing that tasted good was some cornbread with whipped cream. The moral of the story is not to take in children you find in the middle of a beach. Also, make sure your child is not a psychopath. I think that's the lesson of the story. Your son will decide his name when he's born. Alright. The story of a fierce, bad rabbit. Oh, that's only 2 minutes. What the fuck? That's actually really short. It makes me... I wonder why. We'll do the cautionary tales for children. On 17 minutes. Let's do the adventures of a kite.
Adventure of a Kite.
Oh my god, her mic quality.
By Mrs. Harriet Myrtle.
Is her narration okay with you guys? Or do you want to do someone else that doesn't pierce your eardrums? Gotta watch out if your kid is a yonder. Here. It's okay? You're okay with her voice? No, it's not Texas speech. You'll know if it's Texas speech usually.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lynn Thompson.
Good job, Lynn.
The Adventure
Good job.
of a Kite. One evening, when Mary,
Hi, Ducky.
her
No, I
mamma,
can't sleep.
and Willie had all taken their seats near the window, and the story was about to begin, Mary reminded her mamma of a merry adventure that she had mentioned as having happened when she and her brother and Master White went out to fly their new kite. "Do, mamma, tell us about that," said Mary.
I thought you said do, mama. I tried to narrate something, but I'm too tired and it kills my voice even more, actually. Because you gotta control your vocals when reading out loud.
Her mamma said she would, and
Hi,
after
Mama.
thinking for a few minutes to recollect all about it, she began. One fine breezy morning in October,
I like her
Master White
accent.
came suddenly to our house, with his eyes looking so bright, and his cheeks so red from running in the fresh air, and quite out of breath besides. "What is the matter, James?" we all cried out. "What a red face you've got!" "Have I?" said he. "My nose is so cold. I ran here as fast as I could. There is such a beautiful breeze for a kite. Come, both of you, and let us fly the kite high up."
And then they're gonna be like, no, we got work to do. We don't have time for family time.
In the blue sky.
Hi, Chris.
"Come,
Welcome
as
to the
many of
stream.
you as can, and this day you shall see what a kite can do."
It's a kite. All kites do is fly. What do you mean? What is a kite gonna do? It's a kite. It's a kite. What do you expect a kite to do? Roller skate? Sorry, I got sassy, guys.
We all jumped. The kite was brought down, and away we all started into the meadows, running nearly all the way, and James White never ceasing to talk of the wonderful things he intended the kite should this day perform.
Thank you, Cryptic. The last two redeems? Oh, I'm not even sure what's on the list. I'm probably gonna change up the redeems, though, because I don't usually have time anymore.
We arrived in a large grassy meadow, sloping down to a low hedge. Beyond the hedge was a very large field, and beyond that field another large field, which had some high trees at the farthest end. In the tops of these trees was a rookery. We knew these trees very well, because we often used to walk that way, partly because it was a nice walk, and partly because an old woman, whom we were all very fond of, kept an apple and gingerbread nut stall under the largest tree. However, as I said before, these trees were a long way off, 2 whole fields. More, 2 whole fields and all the meadow. At the top of the meadow, near where we stood, there was also a high tree.
Okay, can you get to the point where you fly the damn kite? I know what a meadow is.
And at the foot of this we laid down the kite. "Oh, James," said my brother, "do you think we shall be able to make the kite fly as high as the tree we are under?"
It's
"As
a kite,"
high," said James White, "6 times as high at the very least."
Hi,
We
Cryptic.
now carefully unfolded the tail and the body of the kite, being very particular to undo all the tangles near the tassel, which made quite a bunch. But he brought it out perfectly. One end of the ball of twine was now attached to the body of the kite. He then raised it up with the right hand, holding out the tail in 3 great festoons with the left, and in this way walked to and fro very uprightly and with a stately air, and turning his head in various quarters to observe the direction of the wind. Suddenly he dropped the tail upon the ground, and lifting up the kite with his right hand in the air, as high as he possibly could, off he ran down the meadow slope as fast as his legs would carry him, shouting all the way, "Up, up, up! Rise, rise, rise!
You're supposed to go up, up and away, you dumb kid.
Fly, kite, in the air!" He finished by throwing the kite up, continuing to run with the string in his hand, allowing it to slip through his fingers as the kite rose. The breeze caught the kite, and up it went in fine style. It continued to rise rapidly, and we ran to and fro underneath, shouting all the time, "Oh, well done, James White, and well done, Kite!"
Wow, good job. You know how to fly a kite. Now do my taxes and learn how to get a job. Man, I've actually only flown a kite once. You really need a windy day. Actually, just go on a windy day so you don't have to run at all.
By the excellent management of James, the kite rose and rose till we all said, "Oh, how high! How wonderful!" And then James White said he was satisfied.
It's cool. That's your
Now
life
you are all
purpose.
to recollect that this kite was very large.
Mm-hmm.
In the story I told you in summer, where the making of this kite was described, you remember that it was said to be as tall as James White himself,
I don't know how tall he
and
is.
of course very much broader. The consequence was that this kite was extremely strong. So we all...
Wait. Plot prediction. The kite is so strong, and it's a lot bigger than the kid, that because it was so high and the gale was so strong, it yoinks the kid off.
all sat down on the grass to hold the string, which James White said was necessary as the kite struggled and pulled so hard. It was now up quite as high as the string would allow it to go. But the wind seemed to be increasing, and James White said he began to be rather afraid that he must draw the kite downwards, for fear it should have a quarrel with the wind up in the clouds,
You could let it go.
and then some accident might happen. We accordingly began to draw down the kite slowly, winding the string upon the stick as it gradually descended. But notwithstanding all this care, an accident did happen after all.
What accident?
Before the kite was halfway down, a strong wind suddenly caught it sideways, and the kite made a long sweep downwards like a swallow, rising up at some distance, swinging its tail about in a most alarming manner. "Bless my heart," said James White. Up we all jumped from the grass. "Help me to hold her," cried James White.
Just let
"How
go
she
of the damn
struggles."
kite.
Again came the wind. Again the kite made a sweep down and rose up again, as if indignant, then shook her tail and wings as if threatening to do some mischief, then made a quick motion to the right and a dance to the left, then made a very graceful curtsy deep down, as though she was very politely saluting the wind, but suddenly rose up with a sharp jerk, as though she had spitefully altered her mind, and the next moment made a dart first to the right and then to the left, and continued to do this till James White said he was sure something must happen. We all held the string as fast as we could, and tried to pull down the kite, but it was impossible, for instead of bringing her down, we were all three dragged along down the meadow slope, crying out, "Somebody come and help us! Somebody come and help us!"
Let go of the damn kite.
Sue close, not Zoom 6 love.
Crabboy, thank you so much for the choo-choo and welcome aboard. Crabboy, I hope you let go of the kite.
But nobody else was near. In this manner, the kite was pulling us along, the string cutting our hands and running through our fingers like fire.
Oof, that
till at
sounds
last I was
ouch.
obliged to let go, and being unable to get out of the way, was knocked down.
You
And
could have
being
let
also
go at
unable
any
to roll
time.
myself out of the way, my brother fell over me. James White was thus left alone with the kite.
Let go
and
of the
was dragged,
kite, James.
struggling and hallooing down the meadow slope. He was determined, however, not to let go.
Alright,
Nothing
James,
would
see
make
you in
him
the
lose
afterlife.
string. He was determined not to be conquered, but before he got to the bottom of the slope, the string of the kite broke about halfway down, and up sprang the kite again toward.
God just saved your ass, James. You should have let go of that damn kite. You kids and your damn kites.
Towards the sky, taking its course over the meadow towards the great field beyond. We all three followed, of course, as fast as we could, staring up and panting and not knowing what to do. The kite continued to fly in rather an irregular manner over the first great field. It then made a pitch downwards and several tosses upwards, and flew straight over the second great field in the direction of the high trees. "Oh, those trees!" cried James White. "It is flying towards the trees."
Okay, kid.
He was right. The kite did fly directly towards the trees, as James White said it would. Just as it arrived nearly over those trees, it made a great pitch downwards, right into the top of the largest tree, and completely knocked over one of the rooks' nests that was built there. We came running up as soon as we could, and then we saw that it was the very tree at the foot of which was the stall of our dear old woman who sold apples and gingerbread nuts. "Make haste!" cried she. "The kite is safe among the boughs. I can see its long tail hanging down. But do look here. The kite has made us a present of 5 young rooks. 2 are fluttering among the golden pippins, and 3 are hopping and gaping among the gingerbread nuts."
Girl, I don't care what animal made that kite home. I would want my damn kite back.
James
Hi,
White
Vegeta.
scarcely looked at the
Good luck with your
rooks.
shift.
He said he had more important business to attend to. He took off his jacket and immediately began to climb up the tree.
And then the
In less
tree
than
suddenly
20 minutes, he
flies.
succeeded in bringing down the kite, with only 2 small rents in his left shoulder and the loss of 1 wing, all of which he said he could easily repair. We took the 5 young rooks
Welcome
home
aboard
with
the
us,
Molly
and
train.
had great amusement in rearing and feeding them.
Vegeta, thank you so much for extending your subscription. I didn't even know there was a notification for that. Welcome back aboard.
And as soon as they were old enough, we took them out into their native fields and let them fly directly under the tree where they were born.
Oh, okay, some birds. Cool.
End of The Adventure of a Kite.
What was the moral? What was the moral in that? Let go of the damn kite. Don't go outside. Do your taxes. There was no moral in there. That was just 2 kids. No, actually, those 3 kids. 3 kids getting kited around. Don't hold on to problems. That sounds good. Let go of the damn kite. Also, I like how the parents weren't even there. Alright, that was the kite, actually the adventure of a kite. Let's see, let's look for another short thingy. There's Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Would you guys like to hear about Mrs. Tiggy Winkle? All of them are the moral. Thank you, Sindamico and Charlie Brown. I actually don't remember shit about Charlie Brown. I just know those go like a wonka 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 wonka. There's actually no summaries for this, so we're basically going in blind. Alright, let's listen to this and hope it's not shit.
The Tale of Mrs. Tiggy Winkle by Beatrix Potter.
Oh, she has an ASMR voice.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
I have memorized that.
audiblyaware.com. The Tale of Mrs. Tiggy Winkle.
Tiggy Winkle.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Lucy
Hi,
who lived at a farm called Littletown.
that's me.
She was a good little girl,
I'm good.
only she was always losing her pocket handkerchiefs.
That's not me.
One day little Lucy came into the farmyard crying. Oh, she did cry so. "I've lost my pocket hankin. 3 hankins and a penny. Have you seen them, Tabby Kitten?" The kitten went on washing her white paws. So Lucy asked a speckled hen, "Sally Henny Penny, have you found 3 pocket hankins?"
Why the fuck are you talking to a hen? I think this girl has lost it too.
But the speckled hen
Oh, it's a
ran into
kitten?
barn,
Oh, I thought she was talking to a chicken.
clucking. I go barefoot, barefoot, barefoot. And then Lucy asked Cock Robin sitting on a twig.
No, that's a chicken.
Cock Robin looked sideways at Lucy with his bright black eye, and he flew over a stile and away. Lucy climbed upon the stile and looked up at the hill behind Littletown, a hill that goes up, up, into the clouds, as though it had no top. And a great way up the hillside she thought she saw some white things spread upon the grass. Lucy scrambled up the hill as fast as her stout legs would carry her. She ran along a steep pathway up and up until Littletown was right away down below. She could have dropped a pebble down the chimney.
Can someone summarize to me what just happened? Did she just climb up something and it took her like very far away? Man, I hate my hair. It keeps stabbing me. Keeps stabbing me in the eyes, guys. Did she just climb up a chimney? What happened?
Presently she came to a spring, bubbling up from the hillside. Someone had stood a tin can upon a stone to catch the water, but the water was already running over.
Hi,
So the can was no bigger than an egg cup, and where the sand upon the path was wet, there were footmarks of a very small person. Lucy ran on and on. The path ended under a big rock. The grass was short and green, and there were clothes, props cut from bracken stems with lines of plaited rushes, and a heap of tiny clothespins, but no pocket handkerchiefs.
Why does she care so much about her handkerchiefs? Can't she just get, like, I don't know, a napkin or a tissue? Hi, Prometheus, welcome.
But there was something else. A door, straight into the hill.
Oh, just an hour Arctic.
And inside it, someone was singing. Lily white and clean, oh, with little frills between, oh, smooth and hot, red rusty spot, never here be seen, oh. Lucy knocked once, twice, and interrupted the song. A little frightened voice called out, "Who's that?" Lucy opened the door, and what do you think there was inside the hill? A nice clean kitchen with a flagged floor and wooden beams, just like any other farm kitchen. Only the ceiling was so low that Lucy's head nearly touched it, and the pots and pans were small, and so was everything there.
So everything's
there was
tiny.
A nice, hot, singy smell, and at the table, with an iron in her hand, stood a very stout, short person, staring anxiously at Lucy. Her print gown was tucked up, and she was wearing a large apron over her striped petticoat. Her little black nose went sniffle, sniffle, snuffle.
Sniffle, sniffle,
and her
sniffle.
eyes went twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle.
And underneath her cap, where Lucy had yellow curls, that little person had prickles. "Who are you?" said Lucy.
I'm gonna
Have
kill
you seen
you.
my pocket handkins? The little person made a bob curtsy. "Oh yes, if you please, My name is Mrs. Tiggy Winkle." "Oh yes,
fuck?
if you please,
Oh my, what the
I'm
fuck,
an
stop.
excellent clear starter."
Oh my god,
She
your
just
audio is
lifted
all
up
over
her
the
clothes
place for
basket
me.
and spread it on the ironing blanket.
Hi, Taco. Yeah, this
"What's
is an
that thing?"
audiobook.
said Lucy.
I'm fucking
"That's not my pocket
sleepy.
hankin." "Oh no, if you please, that's a little scarlet waistcoat belonging to Cock Robin." And she ironed it and folded it, and put it on one side. Then she took something else off a clothes horse. "That isn't my pinny," said Lucy. "Oh no, if you please, that's a damask tablecloth belonging to Jenny Wren. Look how it's stained with currant wine. It's very bad to wash," said Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Mrs. Tiggy Winkle's nose went sniffle, sniffle, snuffle.
Sniffle,
And her
sniffle,
eyes
snuffle.
went twinkle, twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle,
And she fetched
twinkle.
another hot iron from the fire. "There's one of my pocket hankins," cried Lucy. "And there's my pinny." Mrs. Tiggy Winkle ironed it, and goffered it, and shook out the frills. "Oh, that is lovely," said Lucy.
Hi,
Hellos.
Element.
"And what are those
Hello.
long yellow
Welcome aboard, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Oh, my eyes are getting stabbed by my hair.
things with fingers like gloves?" "Oh, that's a pair of stockings belonging to Sally Hennypenny. Look how she's worn the heels out with scratching in the yard."
Oh, this
Oh,
is kind
very.
of like a little mom if you think about it. you lose your shit, someone finds it, and then they return it all back and better. It feels like it anyway. Hi, Max.
Soon go barefoot, said Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Why, there's another handkersniff. But it isn't mine. It's red.
Like blood.
No, if you please, that one belongs to old Mrs. Rabbit, and it did so smell of onions.
My sleep is fucked up too.
I can't get out the smell. There's another one of mine, said Lucy. What are those funny little white things? That's a pair of mittens belonging to Tabby Kitten. I only have to iron them. She washes them herself. There's my last pocket hankin, said Lucy. And what are you dipping into the basin of starch?
Your blood.
They're little dicky shirt friends belonging to Tom Titmouse. Most terrible particular, said Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Now I've finished my ironing. I'm going to air some clothes. What are those dear soft lovely things? Said Lucy. Oh, those are woolly coats belonging to the little lambs at Skeggill. Will their jackets take off? Asked Lucy. Oh, yes, if you please, Look at the sheep mark on the shoulder. And here's one marked for Keithsgarth, and 3 that came from Littletown. They're always marked at washing, said Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. And she hung up all sorts and sizes of clothes, small brown coats of mice, and one velvety black moleskin waistcoat, and a red tailcoat with no tail belonging to Squirrel Nutkin, and a very much shrunk blue jacket belonging to Peter Rabbit, and a petticoat not marked that had gone lost in the washing, and at last the basket was empty. Then Mrs. Tiggy Winkle made tea, a cup for herself and a cup for Lucy. They sat before the fire on a bench and looked sideways at one another. Mrs. Tiggy Winkle's hand, holding the teacup, was very, very brown, and very, very wrinkly with the soapsuds. And all through her gown and her cape there were hairpins sticking wrong end out, so that Lucy didn't like to sit too near her. When they had finished tea, they tied up the clothes in bundles, and Lucy's pocket handkerchiefs were folded up inside her clean pinny and fastened with a silver safety pin.
That's nice.
And then they made up the fire with turf, and came out and locked the door, and hid the key under the door-sill. Then away down the hill trotted Lucy and Mrs. Tiggy Winkle with a bundle of clothes. All the way down the path little animals came out of the fern to meet them. The very first that they met were Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny. And she gave them their nice clean clothes, and all the little animals and birds were so very much obliged to dear Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, so that at the bottom of the hill, when they came to the stile, there was nothing left to carry except Lucy's one little bundle. Lucy scrambled up the stile.
Hey. You should have edited that out. That wasn't me messing with the audio. I guess she left it in. Hi, Rinwitz, and I'm sleepy.
Bundle in her hand, and then she turned to say good night and to thank the washerwoman. What a very odd thing. Mrs. Tiggy Winkle had not waited either for thanks or for the washing bill. She was running up the hill. And where was her white-frilled cap, and her shawl, and her gown, and her petticoat? And how small she had grown, and how brown, and covered with prickles! Why, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle was nothing but a hedgehog.
Oh, wow!
Now some people say that little Lucy had been asleep upon the stile. But then how could she have found 3 clean pocket hankins and a penny, pinned with a silver safety pin? And besides, I have seen that door into the back of the hill called Cat Bells. And besides, I am very well acquainted with dear Mrs.
I thought she messed up again. Sorry, I was laughing at that.
End of the tale of Mrs. Tiggy Winkle.
That's cool.
By Beatrix Potter.
I don't know what the moral of that was. She surprised Mrs. Tiggy Winkle or whatever her name is. Tiggy Winkle. Tiggy Winkle's a lot easier to say though. She's surprised it's a hedgehog, but she was just surrounded by animals who wear fucking clothes. She read it fine, yeah. Although she had some audio clipping issues sometimes. Yeah, I'm tired. There is The Tale of Peter Rabbit. There's Tom Kitten, The Velveteen Rabbit, but that's 30 minutes. Monday morning. The last lesson. Actually, I am kind of curious about the story of a fierce bad rabbit. It's only 2 minutes long.
The story of a fierce bad rabbit by Beatrix Potter. This is a Liverbox recording. Liverbox recordings are in the public domain.
I kind of have a feeling their parents might be into audiobooks, or they want to teach the child to read. Isn't it like, hey, record this? I want you to get better at reading.
For more information and to volunteer, please visit liverbox.org.
It's so cute. The audiobook company is a public thing. It's all volunteer based. Okay, we'll be gentle with them for 5 seconds at least.
Recording by Super Coconut.
Oh, Super Coconut
by Beatrix Potter.
I think this is a guy actually. I think it's a little boy.
A fierce bad rabbit. Look at his savage whiskers and his claws.
Oh,
his turned up
claws.
tail. This is a nice gentle rabbit. His mother has given him a carrot. The bad rabbit would like some carrot.
I want the carrot.
He doesn't say please, he takes it.
Oh, no,
He
please.
scratches the good rabbit very badly.
I scratched
The
you.
good rabbit creeps away and hides in a hole. It feels sad.
Oh, boo-hoo.
This is a man with a gun. He sees something sit on a bench. He thinks it is a very funny bird. It comes creeping up behind the trees.
I creep behind
And
tree.
then he shoots. Bang.
Bang.
This is what happens. But this is all he finds on the bench. When he washes up with his
Hi,
gun,
Geronimo,
the
welcome.
good rabbit peeks out of its hole. And it sees the bad rabbit turn past without any tail or whiskers. End of the story of a fierce bad rabbit.
I don't know what happened.
Beatrix Potter.
I made a fucky wucky.
On my way home. Thanks for the nice stories. You
Thank
look
you.
so cute. I feel as to bow before you and kiss your hand.
Thank you, Vegeta. Thank you for the fucky wucky. That was pretty cute, but I don't know what the fuck happened at the end of it. I just know there's a big bad rabbit, and there's a little rabbit, but he's scared because his cow was being gnawed by a bad rabbit, and then like I don't know what happened. It was just like some showdown, and they got shot. That was cute. I wonder if the other 2-minute recording was oh no, that's the only super. No, guys, Super Coconut read another story. He read the story of Miss Moppet. Let's go listen to the story of Miss Moppet. It's by Super Coconut. I am big fan.
The story of
Oh my god, okay, that's kind of loud. Calm down there, Super Coconut. Let's turn it down.
Miss Moppet by Beatrix Potter. This is a Liverbox recording.
Oh, he looks like he sounds like more confident in here. What if with each audio recording by Super Coconut, his voice gets like a lot more confident, clearer, and then at the end he becomes an adult.
All Liverbox recordings are in the
Public domain.
For
For
more
more information
and
to volunteer, please visit
Liverbox.org.
Vox. Yes.
Recorded
Good
by
God.
Super Coconut.
The Super
story of
Coconut.
Miss Moppet. This is a pussy called Miss Moppet. She thinks she has heard a mouse. This is the mouse peeking out behind the cupboard
Squeak,
and
squeak.
making fun of Miss Moppet.
I'm gonna make fun of you, small peepee.
He's not afraid of a kitten. This is Miss Moppet jumping just too late. She misses the mouse that hits her own head. She thinks it is very hard cupboard. The mouse watches.
I have no idea
Miss
what they've said.
Muppet from the top of the cupboard. Miss Muppet
Oh, if you're talking about the you have a small peepee, that was me. That was not the kid.
ties up around a duster and sits before the fire. The mouse thinks he is looking very ill. He comes sliding down the bell pull. Miss Muppet looks worse and worse. The mouse comes a little nearer. Miss Muppet holds her poor head at her paws and looks at him through a hole in the duster. Mouse comes very close.
I don't even know what's going on,
Again,
guys.
Over her stomach, Miss Muppet jumps upon the mouse. And because the mouse has teased Miss Muppet,
I didn't expect it to, Soupy. It's
Miss
kind of cute
Muppet
though.
thinks it will tease the mouse, which
Is
not
Moppet a cat?
at all nice of Miss Muppet. She ties him up in the duster and tosses it about like a ball. But she forgot about that hole in the duster.
Okay.
And when she
Probably meant like
tied it,
Pussycat.
there was no mouse. He has wiggled out and run away.
No, I can't understand shit either,
And
Soupy.
that's in a jig on top of the cupboard.
I think it's a cat chasing a mouse.
And that's the story of Miss Muppet by Big.
Well, there you go. It finished. Thank God it was only 2 minutes because I can't understand shit. But he did a good job. I'm pretty sure that's a guy. I'm pretty sure that's a weedy tiny boy. Oh, who is this? There is another user. But this time their name is Kangaroo. I wonder if it's another kid.
The Tale of Peter Rabbit.
You Kangaroo, you definitely do not sound like a kid.
By Beatrix Potter. This is a LibriVox recording.
Is this a
All
guy?
LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
This is a
For
girl.
more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
I'm trying to... Oh, it's Beatrix again? Beatrix read one of the stories? Oh no, that's just the same author. Okay, okay. It sounds like a teen boy. Yeah, it does actually.
Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits.
Wait,
Their
wait,
names
wait, wait.
were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter.
I'm
They
Flopsy.
lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden.
You'll
Your
die.
father had an accident there.
Oh.
He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief.
That's fucking dark. That's fucking dark. She's basically saying, your dad died in that garden. You don't want to be here. That's not a little accident. That's fucking murder. That's a rabbit murder.
I'm going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies,
I guess Peter
went down
was
the lane
bad.
to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed
naughty.
under the gate.
Are you naughty, guys? Are
First
you
he
naughty
ate some
rabbits?
lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees, planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter,
Oh no.
waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate.
Oh no.
He lost one shoe among the cabbages, and the other amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not so unfortunately run into a gooseberry net, and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost, and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who fled to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve which he intended to pop on the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him.
They wear clothing? Peter? Is like the human gonna be like, oh, whose jacket is this? This can only belong to that damn Peter Rabbit. Peter, you wear clothes? Actually, even your mom had an umbrella. Wouldn't they technically, like, say, hey, someone made these rabbits clothes? They must belong to somebody, you know? It's like, oh.
He rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it.
Oh, I thought it'd be like the corpses of other rabbits.
Sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot.
Good night,
he began to turn them over
Agnostalgic.
Carefully, looking under each.
We're listening to the story of Peter Rabbit, Monty.
Presently, Peter seized Curdy Shoe. Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After
Corpse
a time,
party.
he began to wander about, going lippity, lippity,
Lippity,
not
lippity,
very fast, and
loppity.
looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath.
It actually does feel like Corpse Party
An old
thinking
mouse
about it.
was running in and out over the doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry.
Wait, was that his mom? He saw his mom, and he was like, can you open the gate, Mom?
Don't break an arm tricking yourself off, Morty.
Arya, thank you so much for the raid. How was your stream? Now you're also doing ASMR, I see. We are listening to audiobooks, and I think someone's about to die in this audiobook. Because of his mom, I think.
Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans.
It's actually a rabbit. The start of the story is that, like, the rabbit mom says, like, don't go in that garden, that's where your dad died. And then he goes into the garden. It's like, what the fuck?
A white cat was staring at some goldfish.
Hi, True, welcome.
She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip
What the
of
fuck,
her
the
tail
jump in mic
twitched
quality.
as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scritch,
Not a hoe.
scratch,
Those disgusting
scratch,
hoes.
scritch.
He came to avenge his dad.
Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out.
Yeah, have
and
you guys
climbed
heard
up
of Peter
on a
Rabbit?
wheelbarrow and peeped over.
This is my first time ever hearing the story.
The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes.
Yeah, this is a children's
Mr.
book.
McGregor caught sight of him at
Oh,
the
no.
corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden.
Until...
Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to find in the black birds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight.
Second
I am
pair.
sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 teaspoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper.
Okay.
End of the tale of Peter Rabbit.
See, I thought this was gonna go in one of two ways. So Flopsy, Mopsy, and whatever the third bunny is, they were good children who stayed away from the same fucking garden that killed their dad and made it into pie. The mom was concerned he came home naked. I'm not even surprised they have clothes. See, I thought the ending would be like Peter makes it out, but while he was gone, his 3 siblings went into the farm and they never came back. I thought that was how the story might have gone. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised it didn't go like that. But you know, it's pretty good too. Damn, Peter Rabbit's a fucking dark tale. Let's see. There's the tale of Tom Kitten, The Things in the Garden. It's only 4 minutes too. Let's do The Things in the Garden.
The Things in the Garden.
Oh,
by
what a
Gertrude
nice
Warner.
voice.
This is a LibriVox recording.
All
LibriVox recordings
okay.
are in the public
Public
domain.
domain.
For more information, or
please.
to volunteer,
Fuck.
please visit LibriVox.org.
Who is this, Mike?
Rose and Marguerite were playing in the nursery.
Wait, what was your name? You didn't tell me your name. What's your name, man? John? Okay, John.
And they heard a queer bumping noise down in the backyard. "What's that?" asked Rose, stopping to listen. "That's Stubby, kicking his heels against the settee.
Who's
He's awful
Stubby?
cross today," said Marguerite, and kept right on making the doll's bed. In a second, Rose had her head out of the window. There sat Stubby, kicking his heels against the settee and looking dreadfully cross.
Who the fuck is
"Why,
Stubby?
Stubby, dear, what's the matter?" she
What the
called
fuck's wrong with
sweetly.
you?
"Nothing," said Stubby. "Why don't you play with the things in the garden?" "What things?" "Wait a minute, and we'll come down and show you," Rose said, drawing her head in. "How can you play with that cross Stubby?" asked Marguerite. "He isn't sick, and we've done everything to please him all day. He's just plain cross, and if you play with him, we can't finish arranging the playhouse before 5 o'clock. "Mother said I might stay till 6, said Rose gently, "and I've thought of something to keep him busy. Come." Marguerite gave Rose a bear hug, and soon Stubby saw them coming
that'd be
across
sad,
the lawn.
Lucius.
Rose stopped under the apple tree to look for green apples. "Mother says not eat green apples," shouted.
Whoa, calm down there. What's wrong with some green apples? I've never heard someone be so hateful towards green apples, guys.
Stubby. Rose held up a little one. "Come on," she called. "Find one the size of that." Stubby became interested in spite of himself, and more so as Rose began picking thorns off the rose bush and sticking them into the apple for eyes, nose, and mouth. Marguerite and Stubby began making one like Rose's. "Now find a stick and push it in for the body," said Rose.
What the fuck are they making? It sounds like they're making a sort of toy with an apple.
Stubby rammed one in so hard that it came out at the top of his doll's head.
Oh shit. Oh, okay, they're making a doll with apples, and he rammed the doll really hard. Damn, Stubby. He fucking hating those apples.
"That'll be good to stick a hat to," he said cheerfully. "They look pretty thin," said Marguerite, holding hers at arm's length. "But wait till they have clothes on," said Rose happily. "Hollyhocks are fine for clothes." So Stubby raced off for hollyhocks, picking the short stems off very carefully. First the large silver white ones, then shell pink ones, and last of all, the dark, velvety ones.
My flame
Mine's
welcome.
going to be red, shouted Stubby.
Calm
running
down,
back with his
Stubby.
hands
This is
full.
ASMR.
Then take 3, 1 for the waist and 2 for the ruffly skirt, said Rose. I know what'll be good for a parasol, said Stubby, sitting down beside Rose. What? Asked Rose. Stubby pointed to the morning glory vine climbing all over the arbor, with its pink and violet blossoms rolled tightly up just like an umbrella. Rose clapped her hands. Just the thing, she cried. The children next made long braids of hair of striped grass and fastened them to the backs of the dolls' heads with thorns. Then they bound broad sashes of satiny grass around the waists and used the flat nasturtium leaves for sailor hats. Now we must begin a house for them to live in, proceeded Rose. Pick up little stones and make squares on the piazza floor for rooms. Stubby soon made 4 rooms, leaving a door in each, with a hall down the middle.
Hi, cutie.
We can have grape leaves for blankets on the beds and rose petals for pillows, can't we? Said Stubby excitedly.
Okay,
and a big flat
creative.
stone for a table and little stones for chairs.
Okay, calm
and
down,
more
Stubby.
rose petals for chair cushions.
Shh, Stubby, calm down. Shh, it's okay, child. Who hurt you?
Marguerite was busily pinning a sweet pea on her doll's head for a bonnet, and Rose finished arranging an acorn cup full of tiny green grapes for apples before she replied. Stubby, she said at last, you're a very clever boy. She deftly cut a green apple in 2 as she spoke, and began hollowing 1 half out with a sharp stick. This will make a good set bowl, she said.
Yes,
getting
Roku,
very
they
red
did.
in the face with so much digging. Now Stubby's got the idea. We can go back and arrange the playhouse. Oh, I'd rather do this,
Hi,
cried
Gamer.
Marguerite. We can arrange that playhouse any rainy day. Well, if you want to, we'll keep on, said Rose, looking very happy and giving Stubby a bear hug. Stubby didn't usually like being hugged, but this time he hugged Rose back and said, My doll's name is going to be Rose.
Aww.
End of The Things in the Garden.
That's cute. He named a doll after Rose. Do you think they become childhood friends and then they marry later on? That's cute. That was pretty nice. Is Miko leaving? Oh, okay, good luck with the piano. That was actually a nice story. I guess it's some kid who didn't want to play dolls, but then like end up liking it. That's neat. He stubbed his toes. No, it's like the apple stubbed him. Okay, let's see. Do you guys wanna... Let's do a different genre, because I think that was... Actually, there is the last lesson. What if the teacher dies in here? The last lesson is 10 minutes long, and there's also Monday morning. The name on this one is weird. Mahima.
The Last Lesson by Alphonse Daudet.
Okay, she has quite the accent.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings
That's
are
a
in
kid.
the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
I think this is a kid. That's neat.
I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding, especially because M. Hamill had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them.
I don't even... Participles? Something? They actually... This person, they have a thick accent to some extent, but they actually pronounce things very well. They have really good diction from what I'm hearing. Probably better than I do.
For a moment, I thought of running
Is it Indian? I actually have no idea. I guess so. Participles? What the fuck are those?
away and spending the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school.
Sorry, kid. I'm not sure if I really want to hear about the last lesson. You read very well, though. It's just that I don't feel like caring about participle. Okay, I'm looking at... Let's see. You know, I really want to see something in horror, but maybe not Lovecraft. The issue with Lovecraft is he uses such big fucking words that even I get lost. They're the things you pass out to, and I should not pass out on stream. Let's see. Let's look at genre. Children's fiction. All of these are children. Mystery. No. Plays. Nautical. Not naughty. Super coconut horror stories. I wonder if he actually read any other stuff. I think he's only in the children's section. Poetry. Romance. I don't want to hear about... Oh, short stories are probably good. Short stories. And then I think they try to divide it even more, so it's probably not great. I think... Okay, I guess we'll look at short stories. Oh golly, I'm sleepy. Poetry filled with joyous mystery fiction, detective fiction. Agatha Webb, not Agatha Weeb. Cool. Short works. Oh dear, I have like so many tabs from here. Click, 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 click. I'm gonna sleep tonight, I hope so. I just couldn't sleep when I tried to sleep. A farmer's wife, she was probably a slut. Apple pie. The Pig Brothers. The story of the 4 children who went 18 minutes, 5 minutes, the 9 lives of a cat. You're getting sleepy? Feel free to sleep. The Frog Prince, the Pig Brother. The Pig Brother sounds interesting. Beowulf. It's 26 minutes. I thought it'd be like longer. I'm gonna go look for a mystery or horror. Fantasy, fantastic fiction, supernatural. You can't sleep a lot. I hope you guys can sleep tonight. Horror. A diagnosis of death, a debt of honor. A dead secret, a dark mirror. A dark mirror, part 16. A Christmas ghost, a child of the rain. Ooh, that one sounds cool. These are really long though. I'm trying to find a short one. Here, this one's only 5 minutes.
The Woman in Green.
Is it loud enough, guys?
Song-Ling. This is a LibriVox recording.
Is it loud enough?
All LibriVox recordings are in the
public domain. Not loud enough.
For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by John Burlinson.
Okay, John.
The Woman in Green by Pu Song-Ling. At this time in the pavilion of the guests, in the monastery of the Healing Springs,
here I'll do a compromise.
The most celebrated of the Fokien province, lived a young scholar whose name was Little Cypress.
Oh, Little Cypress.
As soon as the sun rose, he was at his work, seated near the trellised window.
That's cool.
When night fell, his lamp still lit the outline of the wooden trellis. One morning a shadow darkened his book.
Oh, a shadow.
He raised his eyes. A young woman with a long green skirt, her face of matchless beauty, was standing outside the window and was looking at him.
Okay, so he sees like a really pretty girl. Hi, Kyra, welcome. And thank you, Smelly.
You are then always working, Lord Little Cypress, she said.
She sounds really sassy.
She was so bewitching that he knew her immediately for a goddess. But all the same, he asked her where she lived and what was her name.
Are you single?
Your lordship has looked on his humble wife. He has known her as a goddess. What is the use of so many questions? Little Cypress, satisfied with this reply, invited her to enter the house. She came in. Her waist was so small, one would almost have thought that her body was divided in 2. He invited her to sit down. They talked and laughed together a long time. He asked her to sing, and with a low voice which filled her friend with rapture, she sang. On the trees the bird pursues his companion.
This is pretty wholesome so far.
Slaves free themselves with love. How has my lord lived alone? without enjoying all the pleasures of married life? The sound vibrated like a thread of silk. It penetrated the ear and troubled the heart. As she finished, she suddenly arose.
Okay, rest well, Loxy.
A man is standing near the window. He is listening to us. He is going round. He is trying to see.
I have a feeling... Wait, this is supposed to be his wife? And he's like a workaholic? Wait, but... Didn't he just say, like, he's not enjoying stuff? This is supposed to be... It's a short story. I actually forgot the name of it just now. Oh, shoot. I forgot the name. I think they'll repeat it at the end. So we'll keep listening.
Since when does a goddess fear a man? Replied Little Cypress, laughing.
Oh.
I am troubled without knowing why. My heart beats. I wish to go. She went to open the door, but abruptly shut it. I do not know why I am thus upset. Will you accompany me as far as the entrance gate?
What's going on?
Little Cypress held her up till they got to the gate. He had just left her and turned his head when he heard her call for help in a voice full of anguish. He hurriedly turned round. No one was to be seen.
What?
As he was looking for her with stupefaction, his eyes fell on a big cobweb stretched in the corner of the wall. The ugly and gigantic insect held in its claws a dragonfly who was struggling and dolefully crying. Affected by this sight, he hastened to deliver it. The pretty insect immediately flew in the direction of the pavilion of the guests. Little Cypress saw it go in at the window and alight on the stone for grinding the ink. Then it arose again and alighted on the paper, which was placed on the table. There it oddly crawled, retracing its steps, returning, advancing, and stopping. After a moment, it took its flight and disappeared in the sky. Little Cypress, much puzzled, approached and looked. On the paper was written in big strokes the word, "Thanks." End of The Woman in Green.
So the woman in green was a fucking dragonfly who took on human form? That's a weird story. I wouldn't say I guess it's more like a what the fuck kind of story. Yeah, that was interesting. I thought like that would be someone he knew. And she was like, "You're spending your life here. Shouldn't you be outside in the world?" And then when he turns around, she was dead all along. And she was just, trying to give him some tips before she left. I guess so. This next one is called True Ghost Legends of the Tlingit.
Two Ghost Legends of the Tlingit Native Americans of Alaska by Catherine Barry Judson.
Interesting.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public
domain.
domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by David Wales.
Yeah,
Two Ghost Legends of the Tlingit.
It's not like creepy, spoopy horror. It has some horror elements, but you're right that it doesn't exactly provoke dread or anxiety. It's more like a mystery. I guess that's the best way to phrase it.
Native Americans of Alaska by Catherine Barry
Yeah,
Judson.
supernatural.
Ghost Town, Tlingit, Wrangell.
Ooh, ghost town.
Once, Raven came to a large town which was deserted. Everyone seemed to have died. Raven entered the largest house, but he felt someone continually pushing him away. Yet he saw no one there. It was a ghost house. The place was called Ghost Town. Raven then loaded a canoe with provisions from the empty houses and started to paddle away. He did not notice that a long rope was fastened to the stern of the canoe and to a tree on the shore. When Raven had paddled the length of the rope, the canoe was pulled right back to the beach. All the provisions were carried back to the houses, Yet Raven could see no one. Then a ghost dropped a large stone on Raven's foot. This made him very lame.
That's cool.
The Ghost Land. Sling it. The young wife of a chief's son died, and the young man was so sorrowful he could not sleep. Early one morning, he put on his fine clothes and started off.
Lame is another word of like your limbs becoming sort of useless or becoming limp. It's an old terminology. Like they had a lame arm, meaning it was a very weakened arm.
He walked all day and all night. He went through the woods a long distance and then to a valley. The trees were very thick, but he could hear voices far away. At last he saw light through the trees and then came to a wide flat stone on the edge of a lake. Now all the time this young man had been walking in the death trail.
It made him uncool to have a pebble dropped on his foot, yeah.
He saw houses and people on the other side of the lake. He could see them moving around. So he shouted, "Come over and get me." But they did not seem to hear him. Upon the lake, a little canoe was being paddled about by one man, and all the shore was grassy. The chief's son shouted a long while, but no one answered him. At last he whispered to himself, "Why don't they hear me?" At once a person across the lake said, "Someone is shouting." When he whispered, they heard him. The voice said also, "Someone has come up from Dreamland. Go and bring him over." When the chief's son reached the other side of the lake, he saw his wife. He was very happy to see her again. People asked him to sit down. They gave him something to eat, but his wife said, "Don't eat that. If you eat that, you will never go back." So he did not eat it. Then his wife said, "You had better not stay here long. Let us go right away." So they were taken back in the same canoe. It is called Ghost's Canoe, and it is the only one on the lake. They landed at the broad flat rock where the chief's son had stood calling. It is called Ghost's Rock, and is at the very end of the death trail. Then they started down the trail, through the valley and through the thick woods. The second night they reached the chief's house.
The ghost house.
The chief's son told his wife to stay outside. He went in and said to his father, "I have brought my wife back."
The ghost wife.
The chief said, "Why don't you bring her in?" The chief laid down a nice mat with fur robes on it for the young wife. The young man went out to get his wife, but when he came in with her, they could see only him. When he came very close, they saw a deep shadow following him. When his wife sat down and they put a marten skin robe around her, it hung about the shadow just as if a person were sitting there. When she ate, they saw only the spoon moving up and down, but not the shadow of her hands. It looked very strange to them. Afterwards, the chief's son died, and the ghosts of both of them went back to Ghostland. End of Two Ghost Legends of the Tlingit Native Americans of Alaska by Catherine Berry Judson.
That was kind of stupid. The first one was like, the story about the canoe was stupid. Like, what was the point of that? There was just a ghost who dropped a pebble on his foot for taking shit from the house. And then the second one, okay, it's kind of like the Persephone, no, that's, what's it called? The mythology, where the husband goes to the underworld to get his wife back, but he's not supposed to turn around. I thought it was gonna go like that, except, you know, Native American themed, but all that kept happening was there's a ghost rock here, that's a ghost town, that's a ghost house, that's a ghost canoe. Like, what the fuck is this? I thought it was stupid. It was funny. Okay, let's see. The Woman in Grey, we read that. Oh, The Monkey's Paw is a really good story, but it's pretty long. We can do a Child of the Rain, it's like 11 minutes. Is the water ghost too? The ghost water? The ghost pee?
By Elijah Wilkinson Petey.
Oh my god, his voice is like... It's very fancy. Orpheus, yeah, that's the story. I thought I was gonna go that route. But no, they just wanted to do ghostifying everything. Ghost pool.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Oh man, he has such a
For more information or to
fancy
volunteer,
accent.
please visit LibriVox.org.
Recording
A Child of the Rain by Elijah Wilkinson Peattie.
Narrated by.
It was the night that Mona Meeks, the dressmaker, told him she didn't love him. He couldn't believe it at first, because he had so long been accustomed to the idea that she did, and no.
Wow, that's laying it on thick. Wow, that's sad.
No matter how rough the weather or how irascible the passengers, he felt a song in his heart as he punched transfers and rang his bell punch and signalled the driver when to let people off and on. Now, suddenly, with no reason except a woman's, she had changed her mind. He dropped in to see her at 5 o'clock, just before time for the night shift, and to give her 2 red apples he had been saving for her.
And she's
She
like,
looked
I
at
don't
the
love you.
apples as if they were invisible and she could not see them.
Hi,
And
Battle.
standing in her disorderly little dressmaking parlour, with its cuttings and scraps and litter of fabrics, she said, "It is
I
no
don't love
use,
you."
John. I shall have to work here like this all my life. Work here alone. For I don't love you, John. No, I don't. I thought I did, but it is a mistake." "You mean it?" asked John, bringing up the words in a...
What do you mean you mean it? Why would you ask that? Like, I mean, like, are you serious? Like, you mean it? You sound... Calm down there, John. You kind of sound excited at the thought of her not loving you.
Great gasp. "Yes," she said, white and trembling, and putting out her hands as if to beg for his mercy. And then, big lumbering fool, he turned around and strode down the stairs and stood at the corner in the beating rain, waiting for his car.
Aww.
It came along at length, spluttering on the wet rails and spitting out blue fire, and he took his shift, after a gruff "good night" to Johnson, the man he relieved. He was glad the rain was bitter cold and drove in his face fiercely. He rejoiced at the cruelty of the wind, and when it hustled pedestrians before it, lashing them, twisting their clothes and threatening their equilibrium, he felt amused. He was pleased at the chill in his bones and at the hunger that tortured him. At least, at first he thought it was hunger, till he remembered that he had just eaten. The hours passed confusedly. He had no consciousness of time, but it must have been late, near midnight, judging by the fact that there were few persons visible anywhere in the black storm, when he noticed a little figure sitting at the far end of the car.
It's the
He had
child
not
in the
seen
rain.
the child when she got on, but all was so curious and wild to him that evening. He himself seemed to himself the most curious and the wildest of all things, that it was not surprising that he should not have observed the little creature. She was wrapped in a coat so much too large that it had become frayed at the bottom from dragging on the pavement. Her hair hung in unkempt stringiness about her bent shoulders, and her feet were covered with old arctics, many sizes too big, from which the soles hung loose. Beside the little figure was a chest of dark wood, with curiously wrought hasps. From this depended a stout strap by which it could be carried over the shoulders. John Billings stared in, fascinated by the poor little thing with its head sadly drooping upon its breast, its thin blue hands relaxed upon its lap.
Wait, blue hands? Well, I mean, I'm not really surprised if the child was dead all along or something.
And its whole attitude so suggestive of hunger, loneliness, and fatigue that he made up his mind he would collect no fare from it.
Oh, he's a
It will need
cab
its
driver.
nickel for
Okay.
breakfast, he said to himself. The company can stand this for once. Or, come to think of it, I might celebrate my hard luck. Here's to the brotherhood of failures.
Aww.
And he took a nickel from one pocket of his greatcoat and dropped it in another, ringing his bell punch to record the transfer. The car plunged along in the darkness, and the rain beat more viciously than ever in his face. The night was full of the rushing sound of the storm. Owing to some change of temperature, the glass of the car became obscured, so that the young conductor could no longer see the little figure distinctly, and he grew anxious about the child. "I wonder if it's all right," he said to himself. "I never saw living creature sit so still." He opened the car door, intending to speak with the child, but just then something went wrong with the lights. There was a blue and green flickering, then darkness, a sudden halting of the car, and a great sweep of wind and rain in at the door. When, after a moment, light and motion reasserted themselves, and Billings had got the door together, he turned to look at the little passenger. But the car was empty. It was a fact. There was no child there, not even moisture on the seat where she had been sitting. "Bill," said he, going to the front door and addressing the driver, "what became of that little kid in the old cloak?" "I didn't see no kid," said Bill, crossly. "For Gawd's sake, close the door, John, and get that draught off my back." "Draught?" said John, indignantly. "Where's the draught?" "You've left the hind door open," growled Bill, and John saw him shivering as a blast struck him and ruffled the fur on his bearskin coat. But the door was not open, and yet John had to admit to himself that the car seemed filled with wind and a strange coldness.
The kid was on his back.
However, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Still, it was as well, no doubt, to look under the seats just to make sure no little crouching figure was there, and so he did. But there was nothing. In fact, John said to himself, he seemed to be getting expert in finding nothing where there ought to be something. He might have stayed in the car, for there was no likelihood of more passengers that evening, but somehow he preferred going out where the rain could drench him and the wind pommel him. How horribly tired he was! If there were only some still place away from the blare of the city, where a man could lie down and listen to the sound of the sea or the storm, or if one could grow suddenly old and get through with the bother of living, or if... The car gave a sudden lurch as it rounded a curve, and for a moment it seemed to be a mere chance whether Conductor Billings would stay on his platform or go off under those fire-spitting wheels. He caught instinctively at his brake, saved himself, and stood still for a moment, panting. "I must have dozed," he said to himself. Just then, dimly, through the blurred window, he saw again the little figure of the child, its head on its breast as before, its blue hands lying in its lap, and the curious box beside it. John Billings felt a coldness beyond the coldness of the night run through his blood. Then, with a half-stifled cry, he threw back the door and made a desperate spring at the corner where the eerie thing sat. And he touched the green carpeting on the seat, which was quite dry and warm, as if no dripping, miserable little wretch had ever crouched there.
Yeah, I only had 2 hours of sleep.
"Bill!" he roared. "I want to know about that kid." "What kid?" "The same kid. The wet one with the old coat and the box with iron hasps. The one that's been sitting here in the car." Bill turned his surly face to confront the young conductor. "You've been drinking, you fool,"
I'd like to rest. I'm making sure
you know you'll be reported.
I'm making sure I have the ability to pass out later, because I've been trying to sleep but it wouldn't come. Yeah.
The conductor said not a word. He went slowly and weakly back to his post, and stood there the rest of the way leaning against the end of the car for support. Once or twice he muttered, "The poor little brat," and again he said,
Austin.
"So you didn't love me after all." He never knew how he reached home, but he sank to sleep as dying men sink to death.
Huh?
All the same, being a hearty young man, he was on duty again next day but one, and again the night was rainy and cold. It was the last run, and the car was spinning along at its limit when there came a sudden soft shock. John Billings knew what that meant. He had felt something of the kind once before. He turned sick for a moment and held on to the brake. Then he summoned his courage and went around to the side of the car, which had stopped. Bill, the driver, was before him and had a limp little figure in his arms and was carrying it to the gaslight. John gave one look and cried, "It's the same kid, Bill, the one I told you of."
It wasn't a breeding issue, I just couldn't sleep.
True as truth were the ragged coat dangling from the pitiful body, the little blue hands, the thin shoulders, the stringy hair, the big arctics on the feet. And in the road not far off was the curious chest of dark wood with iron hasps. "She ran under the car deliberate," cried Bill. "I yelled to her, but she looked at me and ran straight on." He was
so it
white,
wasn't a ghost,
in spite of his weather-beaten skin. "I guess you wasn't drunk last night after all, John," said he. You are sure the kid is there?" gasped John. "Not so damned sure," said Bill. But a few minutes later it was taken away in a patrol wagon, and with it the little box with iron hasps.
Huh.
End of A Child of the Rain.
That was, I guess they're trying to frame it as a ghost story. Oh gosh, you are up early, demon. Well, to be fair, I didn't sleep yesterday. It wasn't a ghost, it was just like a homeless kid trying to take shelter from the rain. I didn't expect that. I was kind of hoping maybe like the child would be a child of death. Like, hey, you seeing this child means you're gonna die in the rain. You didn't sleep at all, oh dear. Huh. Let's see. Everything else is kind. There's the Uncommercial Traveler. Unless you want to do something a lot longer. There's the Telltale Heart. The Monkey's Paw is my favorite, actually. It's 24 minutes, though. You only had a few hours sleep? Oh, golly. Make sure you get your nap. Oh, well, listen to this. The Monkey's Paw. Oh, golly, my foot's fallen asleep. Oh my gosh.
The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs.
Ooh, your voice is decent.
This is a LibriVox recording.
Okay,
All
I hope
LibriVox
these help you
recordings are in the
sleep.
public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
Progress is very sleepy, and this will probably be the last story for the night. Cause it's almost 11 p.m. He sounds like British Roku. I think Roku has a deeper, nicer quality voice though.
By Dylan. The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. Chapter 1.
I think this voice would probably be someone from Discord. It's like a mesh of your voices actually. Thank you, Roku. Roku had like an ASMR redeem. I think he has to catch up on it though.
The night was cold and wet, but in the small parlour of Laburnum Villa the blinds were drawn and the fire burned brightly. Father and son were at chess, the former who possessed ideas about the game involving radical changes, putting his king into such sharp and unnecessary perils that he even provoked comment from the white-haired old lady knitting placidly by the fire. "Hark at the wind," said Mr. White, who, having seen a fatal mistake after it was too late, was amiably desirous of preventing his son from seeing it. "I'm listening," said the latter, grimly surveying the board as he stretched out his hand. "Check." "I should hardly think that he'd come tonight," said his father, with his hand poised over the board. "Mate," replied the son. "That's the worst of living so far out," bawled Mr. White, with sudden and unlooked-for violence. "Of all the beastly, slushy, out-of-the-way places to live in, this is the worst. Pathway's a bog, and the road's a torrent. I don't know what people are thinking about. I suppose because only 2 houses in the road are let, they think..."
A creepy story. If it's public domain, I could probably listen to that like solo, but not on stream. I will consider it. Thank you.
It doesn't matter. Never mind, dear, said his wife soothingly. Perhaps you'll win the next one. Mr. White looked up sharply, just in time to intercept a knowing glance between mother and son. The words died away on his lips, and he had a guilty grin in his thin grey beard. There he is, said Herbert White, as the gate banged to loudly and heavy footsteps came toward the door. The old man rose with hospitable haste, and opening the door was heard condoling with the new arrival. The new arrival also condoled with himself, so that Mrs. White said, "Tut tut," and coughed gently as her husband entered the room, followed by a tall, burly man, beady of eye and rubicund of visage.
That's his lover.
Sergeant Major Morris, he said, introducing him. The Sergeant Major shook hands, and taking the proffered seat by the fire, watched contentedly while his host got out whisky and tumblers and stood a small copper kettle on the fire. At the third glass, his eyes got brighter, and he began to talk. The little family circle regarding with eager interest this visitor from distant parts, as he squared his broad shoulders in his chair and spoke of wild scenes and doughty deeds, of wars and plagues and strange peoples. 21 years of it, said Mr. White, nodding at his wife and son. When he went away he was a slip of a youth in the warehouse. Now look at him. He don't look to have taken much harm, said Mrs. White politely. I'd like to go to India myself, said the old man. Just to look round a bit, you know. Better where you are, said the Sergeant Major, shaking his head. He put down the empty glass and, sighing softly, shook it again. I should like to see those old monkey temples and fakirs and jugglers, said the old man. What was that you started telling me the other day about a monkey's paw or something, Morris? Nothing, said the soldier hastily. Leastways, nothing worth hearing. Monkey's paw? Said Mrs. White curiously. Well, it's a bit of what you might call magic, perhaps, said the Sergeant Major offhandedly. His three listeners leaned forward eagerly. The visitor absent-mindedly put his empty glass to his lips and then set it down again. His host filled it for him. To look at, said the Sergeant Major, fumbling in his pocket. It's just an ordinary little paw dried to a mummy. He took something out of his pocket and prepared it. Mrs. White drew back with a grimace, but her son, taking it, examined it curiously. And what is there special about it? Inquired Mr. White as he took it from his son, and having examined it, placed it upon the table. It had a spell put on it by an old fakir, said the Sergeant Major, a very holy man. He wanted to show that fate ruled people's lives, and that those who interfered with it did so to their sorrow. He put a spell on it, so that 3 separate men could each have 3 wishes from it. His manner was so impressive that his hearers were conscious that their light laughter jarred somewhat. Then why don't you have 3, sir? Said Herbert White, cleverly. The soldier regarded him in the way that middle age is wont to regard presumptuous youth. I have, he said quietly, and his blotchy face whitened. And did you really have the 3 wishes granted? Asked Mrs. White.
I wish to divorce
said
you,
the Sergeant Major, and his glass tapped against his strong teeth. And has anybody else wished? Persisted the old lady. The first man had his 3 wishes, yes, was the reply. I don't know what the first 2 were, but the third was for death.
What?
That's why I got the paw. His tones were so grave that a hush fell upon the group.
Wait, I don't remember that part in the story. See, I only remember the part of like a grieving couple. They wish for death? What? Oh, wow, I did not remember this part in the story at all.
If you've had your 3 wishes,
Thank
it's
you,
no good for you now then,
Mia.
Morris, said the old man at last. What do you keep it for? The soldier shook his head. Fancy, I suppose, he said slowly. I did have some idea of selling it, but I don't think I will. It has caused enough mischief already. Besides...
Wait, if you know it causes mischief, why would you give it to the couple then?
People won't buy. They think it's a fairy tale, some of them, and those who do think any of it want to try it first and pay me afterward. If you could have another 3 wishes, said the old man, eyeing him keenly, would you have them? I don't know, said the other. I don't know. He took the paw, and dangling it between his forefinger and thumb, suddenly threw it upon the fire. White, with a slight cry, stooped down and snatched it off. Better let it burn, said the soldier, solemnly. If you don't want it, Morris, said the other, give it to me.
Ooh.
I won't, said his friend doggedly.
Maybe, see, if you don't want them to ask for the paw, maybe you shouldn't have told them about it at all.
I threw it on the fire. If you keep it, don't blame me for what happens. Pitch it on the fire again like a sensible man. The other shook his head and examined his new possession closely. How do you do it? He inquired. Hold it up in your right hand and wish aloud, said the sergeant major. But I warn you of the consequences. Sounds like the Arabian Nights, said Mrs. White, as she rose and began to set the supper. Don't you think you might wish for 4 pairs of hands for me? Her husband drew the talisman from pocket, and then all three burst into laughter, as the sergeant major, with a look of alarm on his face, caught him by the arm.
Oh no.
If you must wish, he said gruffly, wish for something sensible. Mr. White dropped it back in his pocket, and placing chairs, motioned his friend to the table. In the business of supper, the talisman was partly forgotten, and afterward the three sat listening in an enthralled fashion to a second installment of the soldier's adventures in India. If the tale about the monkey's paw is not more truthful than those he has been telling us, said Herbert, as the door closed behind their guest, just in time for him to catch the last train, we shan't make much out of it. Did you give him anything for it, father? Inquired Mrs. White, regarding her husband closely. A trifle, said he, colouring slightly. He didn't want it, but I made him take it, and he pressed me again to throw it away. Likely, said Herbert, with pretended horror. Why, we're going to be rich and famous and happy. Wish to be an emperor, father, to begin with, then you can't be henpecked. He darted round the table, pursued by the maligned Mrs. White, armed with an antimacassar. Mr. White took the paw from his pocket and eyed it dubiously. I don't know what to wish for, and that's a fact, he said.
See, I would be the one to wish for
I've got
money.
all I want.
I know, well, you're fine, I'm
If you only cleared
sleepy.
the house, you'd be quite happy, wouldn't you? Said Herbert, with his hand on his shoulder. Well, wish for £200 then. That'll just do it. His father, smiling shamefacedly at his own credulity, held up the talisman, as his son, with a solemn face, somewhat marred by a wink at his mother, sat down at the piano and struck a few impressive chords. I wish for £200, said the old man distinctly.
Noelle, welcome aboard. 8 months. Thank you so much for boarding the Molly
I
train.
made a fucky wucky.
Roku here, patting my head. Thank you for the fucky wucky. 2 wishes remain, oh golly.
A fine crash from the piano greeted the words, interrupted by a shuddering cry from the old man. His wife and son ran toward him. It moved, he cried, with a glance of disgust at the object as it lay on the floor. As I wished, it twisted in my hand like a snake.
Never mind, it's the paw that's alive.
I don't see the money, said his son as he picked it up.
I made a fucky
wucky.
wucky.
And I bet I never shall.
Mr. Spanner, thank you so much for the fucky wucky here. I'm bending down so you can pat. Thank you. I hope I can sleep tonight too.
It must have been your fancy, father, said his wife, regarding him anxiously. He shook his head. Never mind, though. There's no harm done. But it gave me a shock all the same. They sat down by the fire again, while the 2 men finished their pipes. Outside, the wind was higher than ever, and the old man started nervously at the sound of a door banging upstairs. A silence unusual and depressing settled upon all three, which lasted until the old couple rose to retire for the night. I expect you'll find the cash tied up in a big bag in the middle of your bed, said Herbert, as he bade them good night. And something horrible squatting up on top of the wardrobe, watching you as you pocket your ill-gotten gains. He sat alone in the darkness, gazing at the dying fire, and seeing faces in it.
Wow.
The last face was so horrible and so simian that he gazed at it in amazement. It got so vivid that, with a little uneasy laugh, he felt on the table for a glass containing a little water to throw over it.
I kind of wonder if you did own the paw and you made a wish, would it still be safe to burn the paw without making the other wishes? I assume it's possible. It's not like you have to finish all the wishes.
His hand grasped the monkey's paw, and with a little shiver, he wiped his hand on his coat and went up to bed. Chapter 2. In the brightness of the wintry sun next morning, as it streamed over the breakfast table, he laughed at his fears. There was an air of prosaic wholesomeness about the room, which he had lacked on the previous night, and the dirty, shriveled little paw was pitched on the sideboard with a carelessness which betokened no great belief in its virtues. I suppose all the soldiers are the same, said Mrs. White. The idea of our listening to such nonsense. How could wishes be granted in these days? And if they could, how could £200 hurt you, father?
Yeah, but technically, isn't the word negative the word depends on the person? Something negative for you could not be negative for the paw. Like, what if the paw was completely neutral and it saw as nothing as positive nor negative? I don't know.
Might drop on his head from the sky, said the frivolous Herbert. Morris said, the things happened so naturally, said his father, that you might, if you so wished, attribute it to coincidence.
This is the monkey's paw.
Well, don't break into the money before I come back, said Herbert.
It's kind of like the genie's lamp, but monkeys.
I'm afraid it'll turn you into a mean, avaricious man, and we shall have to disown you. His mother laughed, and following him to the door, watched him down the road, and returning to the breakfast table, was very happy at the expense of her husband's credulity. All of which did not prevent her from scurrying to the door at the postman's knock, nor prevent her from referring somewhat shortly to retired sergeant majors of bibulous habits when she found that the post brought a tailor's bill. Herbert will have some more of his funny remarks, I bet, when he comes home, she sat as they sat for dinner. I dare say, said Mr. White, pouring himself out some beer. But for all that, the thing moved in my hand. That I'll swear to. You thought it did, said the old lady soothingly. I say it did, replied the other. There was no thought about it. I had just... What's the matter? His wife made no reply. She was watching the mysterious movements of a man outside, who, peering in an undecided fashion at the house, appeared to be trying to make up his mind to enter. In mental connection with the £200, she noticed that the stranger was well dressed and wore a silk hat of glossy newness. 3 times he paused at the gate and then walked on again. The 4th time he stood on with his hand upon it, and then, with sudden resolution, flung it open and walked up the path.
Oh, I bet he's a thief.
Mrs. White at the same moment placed her hands behind her and hurried, unfastening the strips of her apron, put that useful article of apparel behind the cushion of her chair. She brought the stranger, who seemed ill at ease,
be careful,
into the room.
Noel.
He gazed at her furtively and listened in a preoccupied fashion as the old lady apologized for the appearance of the room, and her husband's coat, a garment which he usually reserved for the garden. She then waited as patiently as her sex would permit, for him to broach his business, but he was at first strangely silent. I was asked to call, he said at last, and stooped and picked a piece of cotton from his trousers. I come from Ma and Megan's. The old lady started. Is anything the matter? She asked, breathlessly. Has anything happened to Herbert? What is it?
He's
what
dead.
Is it?
He stole that money.
Interposed. There, mother, he said hastily. Sit down and don't jump to conclusions. You have not brought bad news, I'm sure, sir. And he eyed the other wistfully. I'm sorry, began the visitor. Is he hurt? Demanded the mother wildly. The visitor bowed in assent. Badly hurt, he said quietly, but he is not in any pain. Oh, thank God.
Because he's dead.
Clasping her hands. Thank God for that. Thank... She broke off suddenly, as the sinister meaning of the assurance dawned upon her, and she saw the awful confirmation of her fears in the other's averted face. She caught her breath, and turning to her slower-witted husband, laid her trembling old hand upon his. There was a long silence. He was caught in the machinery, said the visitor.
Oh, that's
at length
why
in
they
a low
got
voice.
the money. Oh.
Caught in the machinery, repeated Mr. White, in a dazed fashion. Yes. He sat staring blankly out at the window and taking his wife's hand between his own, pressed it as he had been wont to do in their old courting days nearly 40 years before. He was the only one left to us, he said, turning gently to the visitor. It is hard.
Hi, Star, welcome.
The other coughed and, rising, walked
Also,
slowly
hi,
to the window.
One.
The firm wished me to convey their sincere sympathy with you in your great loss.
Here's
said,
your money.
Without looking round.
200
I beg
pounds.
you will understand I am only their servant and merely obeying orders. There was no reply. The old woman's face was white, her eyes staring and her breath inaudible. On the husband's face was a look such as his friend the sergeant might have carried into his first action. I was to say that Ma and Meggins disclaim all responsibility, continued the other. They admit no liability at all, but in consideration of your son's services, they wish to present you with a certain sum as compensation. Mr. White dropped his wife's hand and, rising to his feet, gazed with a look of horror at his visitor. His dry lips shaped the words. How much? £200 was the answer. Unconscious of his wife's shriek, the old man smiled faintly, put out his hands like a sightless man, and dropped, a senseless heap, to the floor.
You know, the wish
Chapter
of
3.
never having been introduced or discovering the paw would be an interesting wish. Or like, we wish that we never were introduced to this paw, but then like, what if someone else introduces them to it? So it's kind of like, how would you prevent this now?
In the huge new cemetery, some 2 miles distant, the old people buried their dead and came back to a house steeped in shadow and silence. It was all over so quickly that at first they could hardly realize it and remained in a state of expectation, as though of something else to happen. Something else to lighten this load, too heavy for old hearts to bear. But the days passed, and expectation gave place to resignation. The hopeless resignation of the old, sometimes miscalled apathy. Sometimes they hardly exchanged a word, for now they had nothing to talk about, and their days were long to weariness. It was about a week after that the old man, waking suddenly in the night, stretched out his hand and found himself alone. The room was in darkness, and the sound of subdued weeping came from the window. He raised himself in bed and listened. Come back, he said tenderly. You will be cold. It is colder for my son, said the old woman, and wept afresh. The sound of her sobs died away on his ears. The bed was warm, and his eyes heavy with sleep. He dozed fitfully, and then slept until a sudden wild cry from his wife awoke him with a start. The paw! She cried wildly. The monkey's paw! He started up in alarm. Where? Where is it? What's the matter? She came stumbling across the room toward him. I want it, she said quietly. You've not destroyed it? It's in the parlour on the bracket, he said, marvelling. Why? She cried and laughed together, and bending over, kissed his cheek. I only just thought of it, she said hysterically. Why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't you think of it?
They're about to be
Think
on a
of what?
second wish
Questioned.
soon.
The other 2 wishes, she replied rapidly. We've only had one. Was not that enough? He demanded fiercely. No, she cried triumphantly. We'll have one more. Go down and get it quickly and wish our boy alive again.
You know, I have another question. So they have 3 questions or 3 wishes they can make, but wouldn't that be technically per person rather than per household? This one is 24 minutes. We have like 6 minutes left.
The man sat up in bed and flung the bedclothes from his quaking limbs. Good God, you are mad, he cried aghast. Get it, she panted. Get it quickly and wish. Oh, my boy, my boy. Her husband struck a match and lit the candle. Get back to bed, he said unsteadily. You don't know what you're saying. We had the first wish granted, said the old woman feverishly. Why not the second? A coincidence, stammered the old man. Go and get it and wish, cried his wife, quivering with excitement. The old man turned and regarded her, and his voice shook. He has been dead 10 days, and besides I would not tell you else, but I could only recognize him by his clothing.
This one is from Libro, like Library Vox, and it's public domain stuff, so you can find it there. Otherwise you can get it from Amazon, from Audibles, but those are usually paid for, and it's not public domain, so you can't stream those.
If he was too terrible
Thank
for
you,
you
Roku.
to see, then how now? Bring him back, cried the old woman, and dragged him toward the door. Do you think I fear the child I have nursed? He went down in the darkness and felt his way to the parlour, and then to the mantelpiece. The talisman was in its place, and a horrible fear that the unspoken wish might bring his mutilated son before him ere he could escape from the room seized upon him, and he caught his breath as he found that he had lost the direction of the door. His brow cold with sweat, he felt his way round the table, and groped along the wall until he found himself in the small passage with the unwholesome thing in his hand. Even his wife's face seemed changed as he entered the room. It was white and expectant, and to his fears seemed to have an unnatural look upon it.
Oh, she's going crazy.
Wish, she cried in a strong voice. It is foolish and wicked, he faltered. Wish, repeated his wife. He raised his hand. I wish my son alive again. The talisman fell to the floor, and he regarded it fearfully. Then he sank, trembling, into a chair as the old woman, with burning eyes, walked to the window and raised the blind. He sat until he was chilled with the cold, glancing occasionally at the figure of the old woman peering through the window. The candle end, which had burned below the rim of the china candlestick, was throwing pulsating shadows on the ceiling and the walls until, with a flicker larger than the rest, it expired. The old man, with an unspeakable sense of relief at the failure of the talisman, crept back to his bed, and a minute or two afterward the old woman came silently and apathetically beside him. Neither spoke, but lay silently listening to the ticking of the clock. A stair creaked, and a squeaky mouse scurried noisily through the wall. The darkness was oppressive, and after lying for some time screwing up his courage, he took the box of matches and, striking one, went downstairs for a candle. At the foot of the stairs, the match went out, and he paused to strike another, and at the same moment a knock, so quiet and stealthy as to be scarcely audible, sounded on the front door. The matches fell from his hand and spilled in the passage.
That's actually me.
He stood motionless, his breath suspended until the knock was repeated. Then he turned and fled swiftly back to his room and closed the door behind him. A third knock sounded through the house.
Yeah, that was me.
What's that? Cried the old woman, starting up. A rat, said the old man in his shaking tones. A rat. It passed me on the stairs. His wife sat up in bed listening. A loud knock resounded through the house. It's Herbert! She screamed. It's Herbert! She ran to the door, but her husband was before her, and catching her by the arm, held her tightly. What are you going to do? He whispered hoarsely. It's my boy, it's Herbert, she cried.
Someone is
struggling
Tinky.
mechanically. I forgot it was 2 miles away. What are you holding me for? Let go, I must open the door. For God's sake, don't let it in, cried the old man, trembling. You're afraid of your own son, she cried, struggling. Let me go. I'm coming, Herbert, I'm coming. There was another knock, and another. The old woman, with a sudden wrench, broke free and ran from the room. Her husband followed to the landing and called after her appealingly as she hurried downstairs. He heard the chain rattle back and the bottom bolt drawn slowly and stiffly from the socket. Then the old woman's voice, strained and panting. The bolt! She cried loudly. Come down, I can't reach it. But her husband was on his hands and knees, groping wildly on the floor in search of the paw. If he could only find it before the thing outside got in. A perfect fusillade of knocks reverberated through the house, and he heard the scraping of the chair as his wife put it down in the passage against the door.
I'm coming for you.
He heard the creaking of the bolt as it came slowly back, and at the same moment he found the monkey's paw and frantically breathed his third and last wish. The knocking ceased suddenly, although the echoes of it were still in the house. He heard the chair drawn back, and the door opened. A cold wind rushed up the staircase, and a long, loud wail of disappointment and misery from his wife gave him courage to run down to her side, and then to the gate beyond. The street lamp flickering opposite shone on a quiet and deserted road. End of The Monkey's Paw.
So in my version of the story, they actually didn't get to make the third wish. It left it off at, I think they used up all, no, they probably didn't use up all the wishes. It left off at the knocking and it just stopped. This is different from what you remember? It seems pretty similar. I just don't remember the major guy as much. To be fair, he's kind of forgettable. So they left it off at a cliffhanger when I had read this initially. So yeah, that was the monkey's paw. I think the third wish should have been, I wish we had never been introduced to this monkey's paw. Or like, I wish this paw never existed. But then there's the issue of the paw could have been something that altered history. So it could be a dangerous wish. And who knows, maybe I'm outside your door right now. Yeah, the wishes have consequences. Like, you know, you wish for money, but someone's gonna... The son died because of it. But yeah. That was pretty cool. That was pretty pog. Be careful of monkeys. Don't trust them. Anyway, I am fucking tired as hell. Thank you for keeping me company. I appreciate it. That was pretty cool. I think I can sleep soundly tonight. And if you were interested about the site we used, it was LibriVox.org. Roku had the link for it. I will make sure to thank you all on Twitter, and I appreciate you all being here despite this. Oh, that'll be my time to stream usually. If you wish for me to have a comfy sleep, I'll never wake up. That's probably...
I made a fucky wucky.
Thank you for the fucky wucky, goat. Get you some good food? Oh, sleep, sorry. Food's nice too. Good night all. I will thank you on Twitter. And I will look for food. I'm gonna eat more... What's it called? Whipped cream? Yes. The whippest of creams. Zzz. Zzz. Thank you for the raids. It's been a while since I've raided this person. Boof.